and Nathan Judah. I'm here with Wolves reporter Tim Spiers. Tim, I think it was last Tuesday night, end of season awards at Wolves. Laurie Dalrymple came on stage, introduced the whole evening and said that no more roller coaster, we need continuity. What's happening? What's happening? Because this is just ridiculous. It's happening all over again.
I think he might want to redo his speech.
I think he might need to reassess and come back. I can't believe it.
I'm still shocked at what's unfolded really in the past few days. Everything kind of seems set for the summer. Lambert happy and settled, and looking forward to bringing in his own additions and getting rid of a lot of dead wood in the summer. And everybody kind of seemed to be on board really. And I think fans, whether you like Lambert or not, had accepted the fact that he was staying. And you could look at plenty of positive signs last season. And
absolutely.
I think we're all kind of waiting for him to build on that, and very interested to see what they do in the transfer market this summer. But yeah, we kind of got wind of this. What was it? Wednesday, Thursday last week. Certainly been some kind of dispute, over transfer policy. It's from what I understand, Wolves want to lean heavily on Jorge Mendes this summer. Lambert obviously wants his own players in. I think there is a way to work around that, and I think Lambert is happy to work with in conjunction with Jorge Mendes. He just doesn't want to be kind of dictated to as far as transfers go. But obviously he's not going to say no to any Jorge Mendes players. Look at Helder Costa. Anyway,
sure.
that's part of it. But I think overall, Fosun have just decided that they want to move in another direction.
But has this come as a big shock? I felt like Paul Lambert we all expected Paul Lambert to be in charge at the start of next season. So when did he get to know about this, and was he taken aback by it? I'm sure he thought he was good until next season.
From what we understand, he was told a few days before the Preston game, the last game of the season, that basically Fosun hadn't decided what to do with his future. If you look at the team he picked for Preston, it was quite a strong team. I think we were expecting maybe a bit of an experimental lineup. But he's picked a very good team for that, and they've won the game.
So the players know about this as well, do you think?
I think a few of them have got an inkling. They've all had meetings on Monday about their futures. Obviously the retained list isn't out yet, so I'm sure a few of them, Lambert's had meetings with all of them, so I'm sure, with that information he's kind of said, we're really not sure what's going to happen here. And we're kind of still waiting. As far as I understand, he's effectively gone.
So what a position he was in then on Tuesday night, going to the end of season awards, knowing full well that he's been interviewed talking about next season. Dalrymple's talking about next season, yet they knew that he's probably not going to be there.
Yeah, well, a lot of them.
It's just a farce.
It is, but this is what these guys do. There's a lot of stuff in football that they hide, and a lot of things that they say on dictaphone and on mic aren't always the case. But he was telling that Jeff Shee wasn't there, perhaps on Tuesday. We haven't heard from him for a while. The last time we heard from Jeff, he was saying what a bloody great manager Paul Lambert was. It's quite. I've picked it up a couple of times already in the last week, but it's quite excruciating, really, looking back at just what he said. This was no ordinary manager vote of confidence. It wasn't just, we're looking forward to the summer and building on this report. It was like, Paul's got the same DNA as us, he said. He's got all the qualities you want in a leader, and that he's our man, and we hope we work together for a long time. That is gushing praise. And 30 odd days later, here we are, and he's effectively gone.
So if you take that on face value and you believe what Jeff Shee says, then do you feel that he's getting told from up above?
Yeah,
is it not? And that might be Jeff Shee saying that about Paul Lambert and what he's meant. Obviously, he's spent a lot of time, and he's the main man who's come and been at Wolves. But is he being told from up above to
yeah,
do?
Of course he is. Fosun are an absolutely huge company, and a multi-billion-pound company, and Chairman Gow, is ultimately the one who has responsibility for this. He came to a game at the start of the year. We know he kind of has overall say on the big decisions, and Jeff, he's the front man for this. He's the public face. But if you look at some of the things he said over the last year, he backed Kenny a week before he sacked Kenny. He backed Walter a month before he sacked Walter, and now he's backed Lambert, like I said, in glowing terms. So yeah, of course it's coming from above. But it just makes him look daft, to be honest, because like I said, he's the public face. So
Yeah.
The next interview he does, you can't.
You're not going to believe what he says.
You can't.
And so we're just in the same situation as we were last season. Apart from, we kind of know it's almost inevitable now that Paul Lambert will be leaving.
Well, I think that's right. This is a very similar situation to when Kenny Jackett was basically a sitting duck for 10 days. At the time, Fosun said that they were willing to work with him. Obviously, Lopetegui turned him down at the last minute. And they came up publicly and said we're willing to work with Kenny, but obviously in hindsight, they'd very much decided that he was gone. I mean, if you remember the last pre-season friendly before he went, he didn't speak to the media after the Northampton game, and it was very clear that he'd gone. But we didn't know about it because obviously they brought in Zenga 10 hours after Jackett was sacked.
Yeah, I'd be delighted about that.
Yeah, so the difference now is that it's become kind of public knowledge that Lambert's on his way.
So this hunt is on then. This hunt is active and it's been going for a while. I would have thought. Then,
as far as I'm aware, they've been sounding out managers for a couple of weeks, both at home and overseas. I believe Karanka's one of the one that they've sounded out. He's a Jorge Mendes client, which of course makes sense. He's out of work and he's got a team promoted from the Championship very recently. So he'll be on their shortlist. But yeah, the difference between the last situation is that it's become public knowledge, but that seems of little interest to Fosun. It's very quiet. Well, it's quite noisy here, but there are no noises coming out. Windy. There are no noises coming out of Molineux. There's going to be no statement. We're just waiting for them to get the next guy in.
Well, I mean, the fans want to know. Do you know what I mean? The fans need some kind of clarification. They can't keep on, just waiting and waiting and waiting, and the fans just, speculating, and we're speculating. And I feel like, it's only 4 to 5 weeks before the players have to be back for pre-season. This needs to happen quickly if it's going to happen.
We've all been saying it, and indeed the club have been saying it, that this club craves stability. And now you've got this massive period of uncertainty at a time where, yes, it's still only mid-May, but Wolves, we know that Lambert and Thelwell had bids in for players. They've got to be getting players in as soon as possible.
Well, they talked about all the players and they've identified the targets, so does that just get thrown up out and torn up now?
Exactly. So they may find themselves missing out on some targets now. It's already coming up to a week since this has happened. You've got the futures of likes of Richard Stearman and Andreas Weimann. Are they going to sign those players? You've got the guys who are out of contracts. What's going to happen with them? Everything's a pre-season tour. It's all on hold. So you've got this massive period of uncertainty. And yes, in a week's time, they may have sorted it all out and got a manager in who everybody's kind of happy with. But at the moment, there's this massive period of uncertainty, which is the last thing they need after 10 months of upheaval.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, you touched on it there. What sort of timeline are we looking at, or do we not know a timeline? Because I assume that even though we found out over the last week or so, they've been looking at managers, and Mendes has been looking for maybe a month prior, maybe they knew it was going to happen.
Possibly, if they've obviously decided that he's not the man for them. So yeah, that now they're doing their due diligence on other targets. But no, there's no time scale. Like I said, I'd urge them to sort it out sooner rather than later, but no, there's no time scale.
I mean, you just worry that if someone does come in, I mean, who was the manager who was talked about last week, the much travelled manager, I forgot what his name was now. Can't begin
From
to
Portugal
see.
now.
The Portugal guy, but he just echoed of whether that's true or not, but he just echoed of a Zenga thing, and I think Paul Lambert's done a great job of bringing the youth back into it. The likes of Morgan Gibbs-White and Conor Ronan and Enne Bakari, they wouldn't have had a chance under Zenga. No chance. He was always going to stick with his men. And you just feel like, is that going to be the same situation again? I know we're speculating, but if they're going to go back to listening to Mendes and the type of characters he might want to bring in, all that hard work's done.
Well, it's a dangerous game. I mean, I'm told there's nothing in that link for a start, and I'm sure we'll get this a lot because this is what...
we're not getting told anything else, are we?
This is what Mendes and his team do. They put people's names out there to boost their profile, and then all of a sudden they get a move elsewhere. I mean, who's to know they weren't hoodwinked by Lopetegui for 2 months before he got the Spain job? So, yes, as far as the summer transfer policy goes, I mean, if they go back to something approaching last summer, it's a very dangerous game because I don't think anyone can say with any certainty that apart from Costa, there were no successes from the guys they brought in last season.
No.
Cavallero was record signing at the time, and he's been very hit and miss. Obviously, he's got the talent to do it, but he's been very hit and miss. Texera came and went, Olajon came and went, Silvio, believe he's gone after playing 4 or 5 games. Paul Gladon. Sace has been inconsistent. He's hit and miss. On Yangay, he was hit and miss, and then he was shipped off.
Yeah.
I mean, the success rate of last summer's signings is very low, very low. So if they're going to go down that route again, they've got to be very careful.
Rob Edwards must be like, 1 second, I was with Kenny Jackett, and then I was under Zenga, got a promotion, then I was manager for a little bit, now I got Lambert. What's happening to him, Stuart Taylor? I mean, there's so many questions.
There's absolutely nothing wrong. In fact, it's great that they've got Jorge Mendes as kind of as someone to lean on to get players. He's got some of the most talented players in the world, and he's got a lot of them. There's nothing wrong with that at all. The problem is when they're leaned on him for advice, and he's using Wolves as this kind of platform to move players in and to bring them on and getting his 10% every time.
Yeah.
we said at the time, Cavallero went to Monaco for 13 million, then he went to Wolves a year later for 7 million. You know, these transfer fees mean nothing, but it's all about shipping his players from one club to another, and Wolves have been used in that respect. And if there's much more of that to come, it's a very dangerous game because yes, Jorge Mendes has got a fantastic book of players, but he's got no experience of the Championship and what players are required to get out of this league.
Absolutely.
But at the end of the day, he's an agent. He shouldn't be having the amount of influence that he has. And if Paul Lambert's going because he's unwilling to be given players that he doesn't want, then the manager they bring in who does want to work under those circumstances is just a puppet, effectively. So it's such a dangerous game to go down, and appointing their fourth manager in 10 months is just a joke, to be honest. And they're focusing on quickly gaining a reputation for making very questionable football decisions. And if they get the next few wrong, and next season doesn't go well, you really start to be very concerned.
Absolutely, on the bigger picture, for sure.
Who's to say that these guys won't lose interest? We don't know that.
No.
Unless they've got a great record in business, but they've got no record in sport whatsoever. Who's to say they won't lose interest? And I know this is all a bit, apocalyptic, but we've seen it happen so many times. There are so many current examples of it. Venky's being the most obvious one.
Absolutely.
But there are lots more. If they start to lose interest, and Wolves have got a number of players on 40 grand a week on 5-year contracts, the recipe for absolute disaster.
Well, the warning signs are there. I think people can see them. I think the fans can see them, and all those people, buying season tickets and stuff like that.
And that's the big problem because fans have bought season tickets. Maybe on the fact they think Helder Costa's going to be here. Maybe on the fact that Paul Lambert's going to be here. And they like Paul Lambert. And we're talking a lot of season tickets here. And now you've got this silence, as we say. The fans deserve to be spoken to here and to be given some clarity. But what we really want clarity on is what's the plan here?
Yeah.
What's the plan? You couldn't get two more opposite managers in Walter Zenga and Paul Lambert, and they've given neither of them enough time to sort this out. They've given them 35 players, which is impossible to work with. What's the plan? Who are they going to go for next? How do they plan to get out of this division? What's the long-term plan? They just seem to be chucking money at it and chucking different managers at it and hoping, sticking their tail on the bloody donkey and seeing what works.
I mean, they said they learned from the mistakes, didn't they? Folks said they learned from the mistakes and they're not going to do that again. It looks like we're going back to square one.
Yeah, exactly. And for all Lambert's faults, I think he identified a lot of the weaknesses at this club and wanted the chance to put it right. I mean, people go, he made some poor team selections this year, but for God's sake, the striker scored 6 goals between them, right? Yeah. That's not Lambert's fault. He wanted a striker, but they blew all the January transfer budget on Costa. He's got no full-backs.
No.
He hasn't got a box-to-box, central midfielder. There are a lot of weaknesses in the squad. It's lopsided, it's unbalanced, and he wanted the chance to address that this summer, but
still won a couple of managers of the month, didn't he, while he was here?
I'm not really sure what more they wanted from him. Yes, at times his football wasn't the best. Yes, they had that terrible run of 6 defeats in a row, but you need 2 transfer windows to get a proper squad in. This is not a 6-month job.
Well, that's what it appears to be now. It seems to be a 6-month job.
Yeah. So what are they saying now? That they just want a manager just to get him, got to get him up in the first season. You have to, and we're not going to give you full control over transfers. And Jorge Mendes is going to be making a lot of important decisions. It just doesn't work for me. It doesn't work.
So, you talked about Aitor Karanka, the ex-Middlesbrough manager. Obviously, he's got a pedigree. He's brought into got Middlesbrough up into the Premier League. Didn't work out for him in the Premier League and was, I think, lambasted from certain sets of the fans about only playing one up front and not being adaptable to the Premier League. Of course, Wolves fans would be delighted if he could take him to the Premier League. But what are the other names being bandied about? I know Marco Silva, who Hull City got relegated yesterday, is another man that the fans want to see. Anyone else?
There's a lot that we can speculate about, but no other concrete ones I've got at the moment. Marco Silva, as far as I'm told, he didn't want to come to the Championship last summer. So why he'd want to do that now with Wolves when he's already at Hull? I don't see that. I don't see him swapping Hull for Wolves. I think he'll want a more high-profile job than that anyway. So we'll see which route they go down. Are they going to go for kind of a traditional British manager who knows the Championship again, or are they going to, I mean, Karanka, if you ask any Middlesbrough fan, and there's one in this video, about the style of football he played last year, by all accounts it was atrocious.
Yeah, it was poor, it was poor.
And yes, he got Middlesbrough out of the Championship, but do you know what? Paul Lambert got Norwich out of the Championship.
Yeah.
I know it's a few years ago now, but Lambert's had 6 months to assess this squad now. So whoever comes in now, there's no players around for 6-7 weeks. there's many players here to assess.
Yeah.
And unless they're just going to be taking Thelwell or Jorge Mendes' word for it and just do what they tell them.
Well, before we finish, I'm going to talk about Kevin Thelwell and Laurie Dalrymple. I mean, they've come in, obviously, you think they've got decent authority, you think they would both be Paul Lambert supporters. I'm pretty sure that they would be Paul Lambert supporters.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if they're being, want to throw their halfpenny in to talk about who they want to keep in, and looks like that they're not interested.
I mean, it feels
in what
to
they
me,
have to say.
it feels to me like there's two clubs within a club here. I mean,
Are these guys just running, or are they just bodies? You know what I mean?
I did an interview with Paul Lambert last Wednesday, which we're going to publish in full on Express and Star probably tomorrow. Obviously, it's been overtaken by events, which is why we've published it so far. But he was at pains to point out how great it's been to work with Kevin and Laurie. He didn't mention Jeff in that sentence, got to be said. Yes, Thelwell's position, if what happens, if there's a repeat of last summer, I don't think he'll hang around. I think they'll either moving on or,
he's a professional
or
guy.
he'll move on because, it's clear that there are a lot of decisions being made without his authority. I mean, Dalrymple, I think, is different because he's more on the off-field side of things and seems to be very, very, very close-knit with Jeff. But yeah, Thelwell's position's got to come under review as well. He's the man who headhunted Lambert. He's the man who advised she to appoint Lambert. If Lambert's now going after 6 months, that won't be Thelwell's decision. So his authority is undermined again.
If and when a Wolves manager is appointed, we will be here. Make sure you log on to expressandstar.com for all the latest Wolves updates.